Big Brother Rewind is sponsored by Hover.com. Go to gfq.hover.com and get 10% off your entire purchase. FreshBooks. FreshBooks is an easy-to-use online invoicing service that saves you time, gets you paid faster, and makes you look professional. Get started completely for free at freshbooks.com. And by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook by going to audiblepodcast.com/GFQ.
Tonight on the GFQ Big Brother Rewind, Kalia is the first newbie to win HOH, but is she really running the house? Rachel continues her meltdown. And how will the new twist affect voting during the next eviction? All this and more on this week's Big Brother Rewind.
Welcome, everybody, to Big Brother Rewind on this Monday evening. I'm Andrew Zarian. A little pink, but I'm Andrew Zarian. I don't know what's going on today. Jessica's here with us. How you doing, Jess?
Good. How are you?
And the ever-so-magical Tim Dillon.
Thank you.
How you doing, Tim?
I appreciate that.
Magical,
I am ever
Tim.
so magical.
Magical.
Your face is a little red. I don't know. There's something funky going on today.
It's been a tough day. It's been a lot
You're
of traffic.
orange. Look at him.
Am
Do you
I
see
orange?
that? Yeah.
No, he's pink.
He's pink.
He's pink.
Am I pink?
Well, I don't know what's going on. What happened? You were late.
I was in traffic for about 35 minutes, on the way to get onto the Clearview Expressway. Lovely road. And people were not behaving themselves, and apparently that prevented me.
The expressway of winners.
It is. It is the expressway of winners, and it's unfortunate because on the ramp getting onto the Clearview, for whatever reason, there was a problem backing things up on the LIE, and I could see the Clearview, like I could see the end of the problem, but I was unable to get on, so it's unfortunate. It was like it was like my life over 20 minutes, seeing the solution, but being prevented from getting there.
I'm sure many people in the Big Brother house get the same feeling.
Probably.
At certain times.
The thing about the Big Brother house, which has always interested me as a show, is it's a controlled environment. And the only obstacles that they are, tackling are things introduced by CBS or the Chen bot, the gods.
Well, that's something interesting to bring up, how things intervene in the way the show is going. Last week we didn't do a show on Thursday. We're doing it now on Mondays. Today's show will probably be a little bit rocky because it's very last minute.
Requests, though.
Via request, yeah. We got so many emails from people saying, can you please do it on Mondays? Because by the time we see the show and we listen to the show, everything has happened that you discussed, so it's all news.
Right.
So we've decided to move the day.
Which means that we're going back to our original setup, which is going to be 50% stuff you've seen and 50% stuff you have not seen. So there will be spoilers in this episode, but we'll make sure to let you know when it comes up, right?
Yeah. So let's talk about what happened last week.
Sure.
Jess, you want to go? Brendon got sent home.
Yes. He's the first veteran to get sent home.
But by his own doing. He won POV. And we're not going to really concentrate too much on last week because it's old news by now and a couple days have passed. Just to recap for people who missed the show Thursday. Brendon won POV, decided to take Rachel off, kept himself on, lied to Jeff and Jordan and the entire house saying that he's pulling himself off.
Right.
But, I mean...
The entire house knew that this is his plan. Here's the interesting thing. And you want to get to conspiracy theories. As a team, right? Because Jeff and Jordan, they're a team, and Brendon and Rachel, they're also a team. And Jessica and I had this discussion all week. If I knew I was the target of the entire house, and you won, I would make sure you stay in the house, and I go home.
You're a great guy.
Because I'm the target. I would be the target in that house. If we were in the house, I would probably be a target because I'm a dick. But... you would not. So you would stay. I would go home. Right. Unless you had a feeling there's a chance you might come back. Interesting.
How can that happen?
Now, and I brought this up to a couple of Big Brother fans, and they said, yes, but you're a rational person. Brendon and Rachel are not.
No,
and they're crazy.
It had a lot more to do, I think, with... Because if you notice, they kept saying the same...
By the way, did you break the... You broke the stand. Look at that. Look at the thing. No. Look at the mic.
Yeah.
You see what's missing?
I didn't do that.
Okay.
It was like that.
If you say so. Okay.
I'm not even near
Way
it
to
today.
stay professional, buddy.
Very professional.
And not break character.
Yeah, I'm usually blamed for break, and it usually is me that breaks the equipment
It's
once a
totally
week.
me.
I don't break it. I test it. I test to see if it's still working.
Right. Quality control.
Right.
So I just found it quite interesting and annoying that they kept referring back to this like giant act of love that Brendon was doing by saving Rachel.
Yes.
And Rachel kept referring to Brendon as a knight in shining armor. He's my knight. He's my knight. Oh, my hero. My knight. My knight. My knight. I think it had a lot more to do with their odd
screwed
romance
up relationship. Yeah.
than it had anything to do with gameplay.
Well, he goes home because they put Jordan up. 'Cause Jordan's the pawn, and Jordan kind of volunteered. And she had a great line. She goes, I volunteered to be a pawn. Oh, wait, no, pawns go home.
Yeah, no, she's like, I really hope that I'm the pawn this week. Oh, no, wait a minute.
She's a
Pawns
misunderstood
go
genius.
home.
Yeah,
She
is.
doesn't even understand herself.
No.
That's what makes her
No, she's
a
brilliant.
real genius.
No,
Well,
she's an accidental
yeah.
genius.
Right.
That's what it
She's
is.
maybe just an
Accidental
accident.
genius. Yeah.
So they go up, and, of course, Brendon goes home.
Right.
And no surprise. And then Julie Chan says something very interesting. Now, there is a big twist in the game.
It's Chen. I'm sorry.
What did I say?
Chan.
Julie Chen.
Chen.
Yeah.
Okay.
I said Chan.
You did say Chan.
Oh, okay. There's a new twist in the game.
Right.
The next person to be evicted will have a chance to compete to come back in the game.
Wow.
They will compete against whoever America votes to come back in the house, and it's one of the 4 people evicted. Cassie, Dom, Keith, Brendon.
Right.
This is very interesting. And I hope that it is a fair eviction. It is a fair voting tally that they do.
Sure.
And they decide that, whoever won would come back.
So who do you want back?
Well, it's interesting because Keith, let's play the
useless.
scenario out, right? Before we go into what happened in the house. Keith is useless, so Keith will get 0 votes.
Right.
Cassie, Dom, and Brendon now could come back in.
Right.
Dom is a great player.
It depends
and
on how many Danny fans there are out there.
Yes.
Danny fans will vote for Dom.
Danny fans will vote for Dom because Danny single-handedly cost them the game.
Right. Pretty girl fans.
Yeah. And I know many people are supporting Dom, and I don't mind Dom. I like Dom.
Right.
Cassie could also come back because she's very attractive. And people didn't want to see her go home. And it's always better for ratings for Big Brother to keep the attractive girl in the house.
Sure.
Right.
Especially for the feed. The next person is Brendon. And, there might be a chance for him to come back.
Right.
Let me ask you a question.
And if he does come back, and if it does before you go, I might think there might be some sort of weird manipulating of the tallies.
Okay, conspiracy.
That's my conspiracy.
So that Brendon would come back
because
into the
then
house.
it's Brendon and Rachel are still together.
It would be interesting for Rachel to go home, for Brendon to come up, and then it be Brendon and Rachel competing against each other to get back into the house.
Okay.
And then would Brendon throw the competition?
Okay, so we're going to get to that now.
Where are the contestants kept after they are?
In seclusion.
They're in sequester. And this is
usually an island of some sort.
Yeah, they don't sequester this early.
Right.
So everybody's been in sequester the entire time, and that makes me think either A, yes, they have been in sequester, and that's why they've been 0 interviews. There's been maybe 1 interview from each person. They've done interviews. Or B, they decided, well, this is what we're going to do. We're going to say they were in sequester the entire time. It's also another theory.
No, because there would be pictures
You think
of
this
them.
was a
They had to have been in sequester the entire time, because if there weren't, then there'd be pictures on the internet already of people shopping and things like that. But what I'm curious to find out is if they're in sequester in seclusion or if they're in sequester together.
Yes, that's also a very
because
good
when
question.
they enter the jury house, they are usually in sequester together.
Well, they said they haven't seen each other, so I guess by themselves.
Would be sequestered individually, which should be interesting, because if they were in sequester together, I think it would be much more interesting.
Yeah.
To see.
But I do want to go into what happened this week. So Kalia, which people thought is the weakest player,
she comes out of the woodwork.
Last week she did great. She was the final 2 in the HOH competition, and this week she won HOH. But it wasn't a endurance type HOH. It was a
call, it had a press a button to see who did what first or something.
Rachel, I don't know if you saw, eliminated herself by mistake the first thing, and she said the F word, and they yelled at her on the live broadcast.
They did.
Yeah, Rachel made me think that she's not as intelligent as I was giving her a lot of credit earlier in the season.
I told you.
I think she's crazy,
and you know what's happening now is I'm starting to remember all of those reasons why I was not a huge fan of her, and I still like her a lot better this season, but I think that, as Andrew said, she runs completely and entirely based on emotion.
She's insane. I mean, can we go back for just a second to that moment when they're in the bed and Rachel's going home and Brendon's crying and you know what? You shouldn't marry me. I shouldn't marry. Like, what does that have anything to do?
That no one should marry her.
You know what, Rachel? That is actually the most sane thing you've said all season. But why all of a sudden is that? Like, why are we even going there? You shouldn't marry me. I'm crazy. Well, you got that right.
Well, the psychiatrist had to talk to her.
Right.
The Big Brother psychiatrist.
Yeah. I mean, she was really losing it in that
write
house.
A thesis on
but
Rachel.
It is like jail, though. I mean, we forget. Yes, they're in a house and it's being filmed, but it is prison.
In a way.
It is prison.
Right.
I mean, it's not.
She's sad. She goes off to cry in her blanket. She like gets in a hoodie, puts the hood up, then sits under the blanket, and all you see is like the blanket like shaking because she's
rocking
crying.
back and forth like a crazy person.
She is. She's crazy. Kalia also went back into Rachel's bush and cried.
Yeah, Kalia was now crying. Did you notice
when she won the HOH, she's like hysterical crying?
And she talks to herself all the time on the live feed.
Yes.
Kalia just constantly speaks to herself.
Yeah. She is another crazy wackadoo. She gets the HOH key, and the first thing that she does is she goes inside of like the walk-in little closet where they have all the food, and she sits there, or stands there rather, and paces back and forth saying, yeah, you know what? No one can say now that I didn't deserve this. I deserve to be here. Yeah, I deserve to be here. Let anybody tell me I don't deserve to be. I deserve to be here. Yeah. Yes, I do. I deserve it.
She's very much like a preacher. That? She's a preacher. Mm-hmm. It's like she's conducting a sermon, you know?
Something. Hallelujah.
I don't know. So she got it. And again, this is Danny's second week of HOH. That's how I see it, because Danny's now, you know.
No, it was Danny's nominations. But not anymore.
Not anymore, because she totally screwed up. So what happened was they decided, you know, Rachel has to go home. That's everybody's target. So Rachel's the obvious pick. And now they're trying to figure out who the second person will be to go on. And here we go. I was just seeing something delayed. I don't know why. So it's the second person they're going to pick. Who do they pick? She picks Jeff. And her reasoning is because Jeff is a great player. And Jeff is going to compete in the POV competition, and that's her way of making sure Rachel doesn't win POV, which is such a crock of shit.
Yeah.
That's her reasoning behind putting Jeff up. No, you put Jeff up because you're saying, well, if one of them goes home, it's good for me.
Right.
Because both of them are kind of gunning for her.
And Jordan calls her out on it.
Oh, yeah, Jordan.
Big time. All of a sudden, you see Jordan grew a set and is all of a sudden going after Kalia and says this whole thing about, you know, like, why would you do that?
But that was interesting because Jordan was starting to lose it at that point. Because she also, you know, she hasn't had a good week.
Right. She just lost the have and have not competition. And you watch her where they do this every year where they make the contestants drink gross concoctions, and then they have to guess what's in them. So basically the premise of the have and have not competition was there was a red team and a blue team, and they each had to take 3 items off of a bar, and they were disgusting items like horseradish and pickles and onions and
those are all
liverwurst and then blend them together, and then the person had to drink the blended drink and try to guess what was in it. And the catch was, if you correctly named the most ingredients, then your team won the point. However, if you named the same amount of ingredients, you had to chug the drink that you created.
Ugh.
And so no matter how gross you did it, you had to make sure that in the chance that you guessed the same amount of ingredients, you would be able to take it down.
Right.
So it added like an interesting concept to the game. So, and they all have these interesting ways of playing, and Jeff was amazing at this game. He had come up with this idea that he was going to pick one very, very strong flavor and then 2 not so strong flavors, so that it would be really difficult to find out what those other 2 ingredients were. So he wins the first round. And then the second round, Shelly goes up. And Shelly has no idea. She's drinking something orange, and she says it's very lumpy, and it's not really liquid. And she takes one sip, she gets it wrong. She takes another sip, she gets it right. And now it's up to this one last chance to get the answer correct. Yeah. And Jeff says, it looks to me like it's canned yams. You said it's lumpy.
Yeah, Jeff kind of knew what it was.
Yeah, he could see it in her glass. And he says to her, do you know what canned yams taste like? Does it taste like canned yams? I think it's canned yams. And she says, no, dill pickles or something like that, or onions. And it's totally wrong. It was candied yams. And she walks away like nothing. She loses it practically for her team. However, Jordan goes up next, loses the chugging competition because they get the same amount of ingredients correct. She loses the chugging competition because you can't drink the disgusting concoction she created. And she feels like she lost it for her team when it was really Shelly. So then she goes off and then has this conversation with Kalia, and she's just done, and she flips.
So they're having this discussion of who's going to go up, and he goes, well, who are you going to put up? Are you going to put up a point? He goes, well, I'm going to, maybe you. He goes, me? You're going to put me up? And Jeff losing. Jeff goes, listen, I wasn't gunning for you, but now, after this week, I'm gunning for you.
Right.
And everybody's going to gun for you. So if I go up on that block and I win POV and I get off and I win HOH next week, you're going home. And if I go home and I come back, you're going home.
Right.
And now Jordan loses it and he loses it. But I guess they kind of made up after that because things kind of settled down. They said, I shouldn't have been reacting that way.
So now we're going to come to the spoilers, right?
Yeah. So now we're going to get to some of the spoilers.
So if you haven't watched it and you don't want to know, watch us later.
Yeah.
But if you do want to know, here's all the...
One of the spoilers is that there's heavy traffic on the Clearview Expressway.
Yeah,
if you don't want to know that,
turn it off now.
Turn it off now if you want to be surprised by that.
So now it's POV competition. Jeff wins POV. And now Kalia saying, well, this is what I wanted. I wanted Jeff to win POV. This is what I wanted. And I wonder if it's really what you want. I mean, she said that from day one. Like, well, if Jeff wins POV, Jeff pulls himself off. Then we put up Jordan.
Right. That was the original plan because she believed that nobody would vote out Jordan over Rachel.
And that is true. And that is
true. Which is true. She'd have the votes to stay. But Rachel, Jordan actually does go right after Kalia and says, yeah, I know that you're going to put me up, whatever. And then during the actual nomination ceremony, when she takes her key out of the box, she says, my key really shouldn't even be here because we all know that if Jeff wins POV, then I'm going to be the replacement nominee. So I shouldn't even have a key.
Yeah.
And she storms off. She's so angry.
So she decides, she's going to go up. And that is the truth. She should have been up there. Now, I like Jeff and Jordan, but as a game, it is stupid not to put Jordan up on the block because she's the only person that you could guarantee the votes.
But they don't want Rachel to go home.
Who doesn't?
Jeff and Jordan.
No, Jeff and Jordan do not.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure they do want her.
So it's smart gameplay in their sense.
Jeff and Jordan do want her to go home.
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet, because she's the target. Because they know after her, they're the target.
Right.
So as long as you keep Brendon and Rachel in the house, there's a bigger target rather than Jeff and Jordan. So, I mean, Kalia now has to make this decision, and the rational decision would be, I have to put Jordan up on the block against Rachel like I did with Brendon, and Jordan will get the votes to stay, and Rachel will go home. And I'll deal with that if Rachel wins in this competition to come back in the house. And I would take that risk, because I would say, well, listen, if she's going up, I have pretty much a 2 out of 4 shot that she might not come back. Cassie won't beat her. So let's say Dom would beat her, and maybe Brendon might come back to say, okay, you know what? I gave you the chance to stay in the house. Now it's my chance to go back in the house or something. There might be some sort of chance she might not come back. Or maybe, who knows, Cassie might beat her. Mm-hmm. Or Dom might beat her. She doesn't take the risk. And she says, I don't want to create more enemies, which is ridiculous because you are creating more enemies if you put someone up. So who do you think they put up on the block? And this is a spoiler right now. Who do you think she she doesn't put Jordan up.
Right.
She doesn't nominate Jordan. Who does she nominate? Because you don't know, right? You haven't read it.
I have not read it, so I literally do not.
This just developed today.
And just going back just for a second, this is another reason why Jordan is the accidental genius, because for going after Kalia by saying, you know, I already know that I'm the replacement nominee, and calling her out during the nomination ceremony, I think it shook Kalia. I think Kalia really wasn't expecting that from her. And because it shook her, it kind of shook her into reality not to listen to Danny. And once she was outside of Danny, under Danny's thumb, she really started to play the game on her own and doesn't want to upset Jeff and Jordan. And that's why she nominates the other person. Yeah. Which coincidentally is a person that she brings up during the very first fight. She says, why are you getting rid of me when you can put this person up? He's a floater anyway. Just get rid of him. So should we say?
Yes. Go for it. Say.
Who do you think it is?
Who's the biggest floater?
The biggest floater.
Well, there's a few of them.
Yeah, but the biggest floater. Who's done nothing.
I mean, what's his name? The guy who's, I mean, Luan's done absolutely nothing.
That's who she puts up.
Yeah. Really? Luan goes up.
And and it's funny because as soon as she stops listening to Danny, she starts listening to Jordan, because Jordan says during that rant.
So now
she says during that rant, why are you putting me up? You could put Luan up. He hasn't done anything this whole game. He's such a floater.
So this is the most ridiculous thing. So now it's Luan against Rachel.
Right.
Rachel has votes to stay.
Yeah.
Because now you have Jeff and Jordan, Portia, and possibly Shelly.
Right.
So now you have the 4 votes, and if it's not Shelly, then you have Adam. Right. So the only one really voting is Danny to get rid of Rachel.
Right.
So now Kalia and Danny are talking, and they're saying how and when they're going to tell the others they are keeping Rachel. So they totally screwed everything up, and I guess somehow she backpedaled. I mean, Kalia totally backpedaled everything she did this week.
Yeah.
She put Rachel up, and they had the whole blowout week after week, and then she put Jeff up. Jeff took himself off, and rather than doing a smart move and saying, okay, I'm going to put Jordan up, they put Rachel up. And then they pull. I mean, they put Luan up, and then now they want to pull Rachel and send Luan home as a casualty for her stupidity.
Right.
Right.
Because but Luan will lose whoever he goes up against in this competition, unless by some miracle, he wins.
He's not going to win.
He's not going to win. But I mean, we did see that about Kalia too. We did say about Kalia that Kalia was completely useless.
Like a useless lump. You're right.
You know what I mean? And she's kind of shown, and whatever it is, maybe it's under pressure or whatever it is. I'd be honest, I do still think, though, that Luan is completely useless.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is just getting nutty, because now, what was the point? You should just put 2 floaters up, Portia and Luan at this point, and eliminate one of them.
Or Luan and Adam.
Luan and Adam. You know what I mean? Like, you could have done something else. Like, if this was a useless week, and you just stirred the pot up a little bit more for no reason.
She stirred and then unstirred. But
do you think people are going to cut deals with her?
No one is. But this is her shot. She thinks that maybe people will like her for getting rid of a floater.
So they're saying nobody can know about the deal to keep Rachel, and they're going to give Rachel the deal. But, I mean, this is too late, because Rachel already has the votes. I wouldn't cut a deal. I said, F you. I'm going to cut a deal. And the next week, eliminate them. Right. Put one of them on the block.
Well, isn't that what Jeff and Jordan were talking about in the purple room? Yeah. They were laying there, and they were saying, we took the deal for they talked about not for Kalia, but for Danny. We took the deal this week.
Yeah, the POV. If we win POV, we put her up.
Yeah. And that they're going to, and if it happens that they can backdoor Danny, they're going to, even though that was not the agreement.
I mean, what a stupid move, because now let's talk about this America's player nonsense that they've done. This is Big Brother interfering in the game and saying, well, listen, we need the numbers. We need the ratings.
Right.
So we have to bring someone back to make it interesting, because they did lose a week with Dick leaving.
Right.
So they have to play catch up for that week.
Right.
So this is their week. This is their way of bringing, another.
It'd be way more interesting if they brought Dick in.
Oh, that'd be great.
I think that
I'm curious why they didn't. You know what I mean? Like, that would have been interesting. I mean, at this point, do whatever the hell you want because you're making up the rules as you go along.
Right. You might as well.
You're making shit up as you go along. Dick left, and now you're bringing back another player. So
it is interesting in this. I'm sorry. It is interesting in the sense that Luan's going to go home, and Luan is now going to play whatever 4 people they decided, one of the 4 that got evicted.
Cassie, Dom, Keith, and Brendon.
Right. So he's going to play one of those. Yeah. Now, Luan is such a weak player. We know Luan is going to lose, which means Luan will go home, and one of those other people will come back in the house, which is really what Big Brother would want. Because if Luan goes out and then Luan comes back in, that is the stupidest week that ever existed on Big Brother history.
Because then you know what happens? There was no point in anything that was done this week. You could have just taken a bye week.
Exactly. And so that's why it will never happen. Absolutely not. It will not happen. So basically what's going to happen this week, I guarantee, is that Luan's going to go home.
Okay. Yes.
Luan is going to fight against either Brendon or Cassie.
You don't think Dom?
I don't think it makes...
I say Keith. By 90% of the votes.
Yeah.
Keith is coming back into the house.
That would be funny.
Yeah.
No.
But I wonder, this is interesting because I don't know who would come back. I mean, it could be with any one of those 3 people. I mean, people could vote Brendon in just to see the nonsense and just the train wreck.
I just think because it would be an interesting story.
And
if
Brendon
comes back and then Brendon and Rachel make it to final 2, I think it's an interesting story.
Well, look at it like this.
But that assumes they make it to final 2.
Yeah.
Right. No, I know. But I just think in general, it's a more of an interesting story than it is for a newbie who got kicked out and then gets a second chance at playing.
Okay. It's not even a good newbie. It's not even a good newbie.
Right. I just feel... or maybe Dom would be an interesting person and then Dom and Danny make it.
Yeah.
See, I think Keith would be interesting because I think he had the potential to be a great player, but then just really sabotaged himself.
Yeah, he did.
So I think that's probably. I had thought that he would be dispatched to like a sex rehab.
Yeah.
After.
There's always that one guy though that really everybody considers to be a really strong player, and they end up just losing their minds. And we've seen it season after season.
Right.
Brendon was one of those last year. Yeah, he made it somewhat far, but he did lose his mind because he got affiliated with Rachel. And Rachel really hurt his game. Now, this is let's play the different scenarios up. Let's say Cassie comes back. Mm-hmm. That might be interesting. Because with the whole thing with Rachel and Cassie's back, so now the newbies actually have the votes to get rid of Rachel.
Right.
If Dom comes back, Jeff and Jordan are screwed.
Right. I don't like him.
If Brendon comes back, that is a safest situation for a lot of the veterans, for all of them, because except for Danny.
Does CBS really want a veteran to win?
Yeah, they do. It's very obvious the way the game is being swerved in a way.
I don't know about that.
And this is an interesting thing. Why would you put, and we've always heard the conspiracy that CBS does interfere in the game and CBS does kind of push you in a certain direction. Mm-hmm. With your voting, and we saw it a couple seasons ago. I believe last season there was a weird pick like that for a week. It's interesting to see that they decided to do this crazy America's player on top of Rachel staying. And if Brendon comes back, I don't think Brendon would actually get enough votes. I think between Dom and Cassie, I think Cassie would get a lot of the male votes to get her back in the house, and Dom would get a lot of the girl votes.
I think Brendon, if he came back, it would be a waste.
It would be a waste.
It would be a complete waste. Even though it would be a nice story, I don't know. I just think that it would be a waste. Whereas I'd like to see a newbie come back.
Who would you like to see come back?
I got to be honest. If it was up to me, I'd like to see Keith come back. I would. I absolutely would like to see Keith come back. I think he was funny. I think he was crazy. I think he sabotaged himself. But I think he showed that he could be a great player. He fascinated. I like contradictions. I like people who are. I like that he was extremely religious, and I think that and he was basically chasing tail the whole entire. I enjoyed him. I would want to see what trouble he would stir up.
You have to see what would be a better storyline for the show,
right?
Because it is a show. So if Cassie comes back. Would it be a better storyline to see the story between Rachel and Cassie? Now Cassie's back, and let's say she wins HOH, and Rachel goes back on the block, and it's going to be 3 weeks of Rachel on the block and the turmoil between them two. That would be an interesting story too.
I think that has the potential to be very interesting.
If Dom comes in, now it's the Danny story.
Sure.
Danny got his guy back, and I could just see how that goes. But it's going to be then it's Team Danny having Dom, Kalia, and her, and they could just get a newbie. Because Portia goes back and forth. Portia is not totally Rachel. And Portia's just floating along on everybody's coattails. And Shelly is fascinating because everybody's coming up with the idea that she's playing both sides, and they're realizing it now.
Shelly's been the best player, and the most...
Yeah, but now it's starting to come down on
Well,
her.
it's true because you can only keep that act going for so long, before people start to realize, and you have to pick a side.
Yeah, but what side do you pick? I don't think there are any sides now because the house is so back and forth. This HOH will define... I think this week's HOH is a very important HOH because if Jeff and Jordan win, then Kalia's going home because they'll probably keep Danny.
Yeah, like you said.
But the smart thing is to eliminate Danny. You got to chop the head off, and Danny is running that.
Whoever challenges Jeff and Jordan's supremacy goes on a list, in the back of their minds. And if Jeff and Jordan win, Kalia's done for good.
No, this is interesting. I think what they would do is they would give Danny, and this is Jeff's plan. They would give Danny a week where they say, okay, you're staying.
Sure.
Don't worry. They would put Kalia up with I don't know who they would put her up with. I guess Adam or whoever comes back, unless it's Cassie and Kalia maybe. If Cassie comes back, depending, or Dom and Kalia, because then the target is on Dom.
Sure.
Because you got to get the strongest player out. Maybe you put Dom and Kalia. So if you win, and if Jeff or Jordan wins POV, then they could backdoor Danny.
Right.
But I don't know. Do you think they'll do a power move like that? Because that's a big move. And that's an orchestrated move. And I like Jeff and Jordan, but they're not smart enough to do that. I don't think
Jordan might be, but she might not know she is.
She might not.
She
might not know she
clue.
is. She may do it by accident.
Who would they do this with? And what happens to Rachel if she stays in the house now? This is fascinating too, because Rachel's staying. So what happens to Rachel if she's in the house? Because she's still the target, right? How could she not be the target for anybody? And this is the most astonishing thing. I guess they're realizing and it might have been the greatest thing she did, that mental breakdown she had kind of made her look weaker than she is. And they're saying, well, she's not stable, so maybe it's worth it to keep her because she's not a strong player. Maybe we could keep her around for a while.
She does not seem to be displaying qualities of a strong player recently.
No, and we're realizing she's only strong when she has HOH.
Right.
Or she wins a POV, or when Brendon has HOH.
She's bad at reacting.
She's emotionally
because
weak.
she lost her mind when Jordan won.
Right.
And that was interesting because it was the same alliance.
Right.
And she was going crazy.
Right.
So that says something about her. She's not okay.
She's interesting. What does she do for a living again, Rachel? What did she do?
Cocktail waitress?
Is that it?
I don't know.
She
Well,
was a
she
cocktail
was.
waitress.
I don't know.
I don't think anymore because she's busy being Brendan's fiance.
Yeah, and
I'm
Brendon
not sure if she
is
mentioned
a
it, but
med
she is
student.
Engaged.
Right.
To Brendon.
My fiance. Again,
lucky him.
Will we see a Brendon, Rachel versus Jeff and Jordan? Do you think it's going to come down to that?
Be great
if Brendon comes back in the house. I don't know.
It would be insanity versus,
I don't know who could come back in the house, and this is where it all relies on. And now the game is almost like starting over, right? Because the sides have shifted so many times.
Right.
I could have sworn to you that the Alliance would run, the veterans would run this entire season.
And they haven't.
And Danny jumping ship, which was an interesting move by Danny, and a little premature, if you ask me.
Right.
A little premature. 2 weeks premature.
Do you think when Dick left, it was kind of the end of the veterans?
No, and Dick said something interesting last week. They interviewed Dick, and I think a lot of people feel this way. She's under the shadow of Dick. Dick was such a great player where, in a way, maybe she feels that she needs to do these power moves and take these risks like Dick did to win the game. Or she wants to show that she doesn't need Dick to be a great player. Because it would have been another season of her and Dick together. She hasn't been able to prove to herself that she's a great player. Jeff and Jordan, we know that who's the stronger player there. Brendon and Rachel, we do know who is the stronger player between Brendon and Rachel?
Brendon, you would have to give it to Brendon.
Well, I think
more social player, yes.
Brendon's a better social player, and Rachel's definitely a better competitor. However, when it really comes down to the money, Brendon would take it because Rachel, whoever Rachel's up against, I don't think she would take the money.
No, but she eliminated herself by you know what I mean? She's
crazy.
She hasn't been the greatest competitor as of late.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. That's an interesting.
Who do you want to see come back, Andrew? If you had to have one person come back,
game-wise, I would like to see Dom come back.
Okay.
But I did vote for Cassie 10 times.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are we allowed to vote? Are you allowed to vote?
I
guess
voted.
You are. You're
voted.
a citizen.
I am a citizen.
You're allowed to vote. Okay.
I voted 10 times for Cassie.
Jessica, did you vote?
No.
You didn't vote at all?
Absolutely not.
Fair enough. 10
times for Cassie. I don't believe that it has anything to do with it.
Do you think the votes are being counted?
No.
Yeah. Jordan's doing the counting.
I think.
Yeah, I don't know how official
takes all the money from the text messaging because it costs like $10. It costs
no, but you could do it online.
Imagine that. That's what Les Moonves is doing.
Yeah, that's Les.
That's the whole reason they have Big Brothers, just so he can. Exactly. He could just he's sitting there with Julie Chen going, "We're gonna redo this house as soon as those texts come in."
Exactly.
How much is it? It's like crazy to text it, but you could do it online. You could do it for free online, and I think they're going to announce it on the 11th. So we have a couple days until they announce the winner of this competition. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you win. Who knows? Lawan could possibly win.
If Lawan wins, I'm going to go on record and say this: if Lawan wins, we should stop watching the show.
It's over.
Then CBS is engineering this to a greater degree than any of us had realized. No, I think Lawan most likely will lose.
Yeah.
And will go back, unfortunately, to obscurity.
Yeah. Now, let's do our Final Four again, like we do every week.
Did we stick to it? Remember how we were going to stick to it, and then we never stuck to it?
What was my Final Four? Do you remember my original Final Four?
Come on. Your original they're all gone.
I think it was Keith.
Yeah, they're all gone.
It was Keith, Cassie, Dom, and...
It wasn't. It wasn't.
And
everyone
Brendon.
has been eliminated.
I think that's his Final Four.
No,
your Final Four was so bad, I think you had Richard Hatch from Survivor in it. You had people that weren't even on the show in your Final Four.
Do I want to say Danny, Dom, Jordan, Brendon?
Danny, Dom, Jordan, Brendon.
That assumes Dom comes back.
That assumes Dom comes back.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to go with Danny, Dom, Jordan, Brendon. I'm going to go with this just to be the devil's advocate. Rachel.
Yeah. Keith.
No. Keith, you know what? Keith, that's another. Keith should stay where he is, truth be told, wherever that may be. Rachel, Jeff, Jordan, Brendon.
Yeah, but that's a strong Final Four. But I think, there's so much of heat on them,
right? Where
it's impossible that all four of them will survive.
It is. It's one of those things where I'm just throwing it out there.
I mean unless they control every, with Danny on their side, I could have seen that. But now that they don't have. I mean, the newbies are being picked off, but
Shelly, Kalia, all these people have no shot. Adam, we're thinking all these.
Shelly does have a shot.
I think Lawan's going to win.
Lawan is going to come back.
Be very interesting.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Who do you think, Joss? Who's the Final Four?
I'd like to see Lawan in a fist fight with Teresa from The Real Housewives of New Jersey.
Oh, I like that.
I think that would be a great game if Big Brother had her like a table flipping contest or something. The crossbreed of reality shows.
I like it.
They got to get me in those CBS executive meetings. Right. I don't know what's holding me back. This shirt's one of the things. Yeah. Shirt matches my pants.
Yeah, Jessica spotted that immediately.
Yeah. You know what Kanal said in the roast? Actually, it's funny you brought up my complexion. Kanal said that my complexion looked like somebody had scrubbed a pumpkin with a Brillo pad. He's a big insult comic.
He is a big insult comic.
So who's your Final Four, Jess? What do you think?
Okay. I'm going to go with Jeff, Danny,
Shelly.
Oh, I could see Shelly.
Maybe
Jeff,
Shelly.
Yeah, I like. Okay, so Shelly, I like that. Okay, so we'll go with Shelly, Danny, Jeff, and Jordan.
That's saying that neither one of them goes. Jeff and Jordan don't go on the block.
Yeah, I know.
That's a big.
I know.
I could see it happening though. Jeff and Jordan have this thing on lock.
I don't know.
People love Jeff and Jordan.
They've been on the block twice already.
Yeah, but they're invincible. They're Teflon.
Yeah.
They're Teflon.
It is fascinating, unless, the total...
CBS will throw in another twist at the end. It's called We're Bringing Jeff and Jordan Back.
Yeah, that'll be the twist.
It's called Jeff and Jordan Come Back Uncontested. Here's the twist.
They're just going to give them another show after this.
It's going to be called Jeff and Jordan Win Big Brother is the twist.
I like that.
Well, we haven't
I don't know why people like them so much.
Are we going to see a coup d'etat? Are we going to see a coup d'etat? Are we going to see...
we're going to see the ultimate coup d'etat.
What's the ultimate coup d'etat?
Something that CBS will make up in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, to kind of keep Jeff and Jordan in the house like they did that year. Yeah.
It's going to be like you evict someone and
phenomenal.
David Hasselhoff comes in.
That was phenomenal.
Like the alternate game player.
Oh crap! One side is controlling the house. What do? Let's give this power of veto. Let's give this HOH to somebody else.
Golden encrusted power of veto.
Yeah. Well, they did have the golden.
Yeah, the golden. They had the diamond encrusted.
They'll have 1 week. They'll have 1 week where you can't eliminate anyone with a J. I have a great idea.
I have a great idea. You give Jeff the power of the golden power, the diamond encrusted power of veto, and you give Jordan the coup d'etat, and then you give them Pandora's box, which what Pandora's box does is eliminates everybody in the house, and CBS could have their wish, and Jeff and Jordan win the $500,000.
Where did Jeff and Jordan live?
And then their heads explode.
Right. Where do they live, Jeff and Jordan?
Well,
I feel like they live in like a CBS box.
Yeah,
and CBS just unravels them for every reality show.
They live in Les Moonves' basement.
Yeah, they live with Julie Chen and Les Moonves. Imagine that, like everyone else had to stays in the house, and Jeff and Jordan get to go back to Les's every single night and just talk over scotch.
There's a house in the back of the Big Brother house. They live in back.
Right, it's a mansion.
I mean, it is interesting because they have become the golden child of CBS, and. In a way,
well, they were on The Amazing Race, right?
Yeah. But I mean, they're the favorites of CBS because they're marketable.
Remember The Amazing Race? You ever remember Charlotte and Myrna? There was a midget Russian.
Yes.
Whatever happened to them?
They're no Jeff and Jordan. They became Jeff and Jordan, actually.
Yeah, apparently
they are Jeff and Jordan.
It's just Jeff and Jordan have been created in a laboratory, but they're Teflon. I could see them both making it.
I don't know. It is an interesting season because now with these twists, but I don't know. Do we like these twists or should we just let the house play the house?
I don't think CBS is confident enough in the ability of these people to continue to generate ratings.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to start wrapping it up because we have to start another show.
Fair enough.
Tim, thank you for coming.
Listen, I appreciate it, and I hope that I'm in the Final Four.
I think actually maybe the golden encrusted diamond power of coup d'etat might bring you in.
Yeah,
I would love that.
I think they are actually looking for people whose pants match their shirts.
Thank you very much.
So I believe with black shoes
and
white socks. White socks.
Listen, this is a look that I am telling you right now will catch on eventually.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to Big Brother Rewind. We'll be back next Monday. It was a little bit of a confusing mess today, but next Monday we'll get our act straightened out with the move. Good night, everybody.
Good night.